Okay, news.
I don't have anything for this week in particular, and then I can't remember what I had for last week. I wrote it down, but I can't find it.
So while you guys are thinking, I'll go over some interesting things. I'll start with the thing that everyone... Actually, I'm going to start with the more peripheral stuff. So the first piece of news is that Criterion, which is they're a publisher of films, particularly with physical media. Maybe one day in the future, if I can build the empire, I would love to buy the Criterion collection, like just literally just buy the company out. I think it's an amazing company. They do amazing work. And with the Criterion collection, they have a half-off sale. I think it's from now until Thanksgiving, ? Or like sometime a little bit after Thanksgiving. But they're half off of a lot of films. I've talked about physical media before, so if you want to get some really high-quality Blu-rays, you can get them for a half price. So I'm planning on buying Stalker, which I'm really excited about. I think Ben has mentioned it briefly before, Tarkovsky's Stalker. And I'll also be getting... Oh, you're muted.
That is a fantastic film.
Yeah, I've heard so much good.
Although I watched it in a movie theater, and I don't think it'll be the same if you don't watch it in a theater.
I believe you. Unfortunately, I don't know who's going to screen it next. But yeah, so I'm going to buy Stalker, and I'm going to buy... What was the second film I was going to buy? It was a Scorsese film. It was The Age of Innocence. That's the other film I'm going to buy. So half off, Criterion Collection. Go check it out. I thought I'd let you guys know. The second thing is that go check out my video about inflation, more relevant than ever, because I've been more and more right as time goes on, which always feels nice. But I might retread ground on that sometime in the future, maybe in some weeks from now, whenever I run out of an idea to talk about stuff, because I think I have a formal prediction to make again, so that I can be right again. But I'm going to hold off on that until I feel super confident in my little prediction. But it's all entertainment, not financial advice. So there you go. And the last thing is there are a few interesting updates in the Alec Baldwin story, the death of Halyna Hutchins. I did a 3-part series on it. If you want to check it out, I would recommend you watch them in order. I didn't reintroduce them, so I think some people might not know that there's an actual order that you're supposed to watch them. I recommend you watch them in order and don't get confused. If you just listen to the end bit and you're like, there's no information, it's just us talking about it, then you're going to be seriously confused as to what the heck we're talking about. So there's that. But so, I said there's going to be changing information, and that's exactly what's happened. So a few things. Alec Baldwin keeps tweeting, which is a very seriously bad idea, about the incident. He even got stopped on side of the road by paparazzi. Not his fault, by the way. He was literally being like stalked, like by the literally he's on vacation. They're literally like following him around in their car, which is, that's garbage, right? So, he's getting stalked. I would not have recommended him pull over the side of the road and talk to them, though. That is very inadvisable. And he said some interesting things. He basically said, I can't talk about it, then went on to talk about it, which was kind of odd. And then he keeps tweeting about it, one of which was a picture from the wardrobe person's Instagram. So the wardrobe person on set has a private Instagram. So Alec Baldwin clearly follows this person. That's the only way you could see the private Instagram post. But then he makes it public. I hope he got permission for that, which alleges that the crew was all complaining for no reason, that the conditions were actually really good, that the only people who were mad were in the camera department, who they weren't satisfied with the lavishness of the hotel, and that's why they went on strike, and that the set ran like clockwork, which is what Alec Baldwin has been saying. That's why he would repost, right, that private message. Now, I'm not sure I believe this. I'm gonna say my instinct is that just sounds like a load of garbage. Given the fact that there's a paper trail behind the complaints of the conditions, and that paper trail went all the way up to the union. And there are certain things that I just wouldn't be able to understand as much. Like, it's not as though filmmakers are like unionized crew is pretty sensitive about union rules, and that's fine. But this is a different kind of thing where people are quitting left and right. So, and that's not normal. Like, people don't generally find it convenient to walk off set, the day before and, go through the trouble of joining a film just to walk off, one day. So I don't know about that one, Chief. And I'm not sure if the wardrobe person is in the best place either to comment on the general crew's satisfaction and whatnot. So I thought that was strange. Then this other strange thing is that Hannah Reed, the armorer, came out with a statement. Remember I said that she was working 2 jobs? Her lawyer said that she was working 2 jobs, and I wasn't sure if that was like her being the armorer and having to make the blanks. Well, they clarified that. They said it wasn't that her second job was actually she was the prop master when the previous prop master had quit. Remember I said that prop master had walked off? So she was temporarily also the prop master while they were finding a new prop master. And it sounds like she was acting like assistant prop master while the original prop master was there. So she was assistant prop master and armorer, which is insanity. So, which is a really bizarre thing. So that's what her lawyers are saying. The lawyers are saying a lot of things, which kind of surprises me, but I think they're angry at Baldwin's PR team for basically throwing her under the bus immediately. And they're just trying to like throw up everything they can in the way of that to try to change the conversation and all that kind of stuff. They're doing what they're supposed to do for their client, which is throw smoke. The lawyers also claimed that she was not on set when this all happened, which I find utterly bizarre. That she wasn't even on set when this whole thing went down, which I don't think I think it just raises more questions than it answers anything.
Yeah, because wasn't the thing that like she gave the gun to was the director? I forget.
No. So she put the protocol, their COVID protocol was that she would have to sanitize. She put it on the cart, correct? Yeah, she put it on the cart, right?
And I just figured she like immediately rolled the cart over though. No, it's just on a cart, like.
That's what you would think, but apparently this cart was just floating around, and I just feel like that just adds a different kind of culpability, which is why'd you let the cart float around without supervision? It might decrease.
Yeah, I can imagine too that like, I don't know, because this is after all these people had already walked off the set, right? And I don't know, maybe they just like figured they aren't even gonna like bother telling her that they're like we're restarting shooting for the day or something like that, and like, oh, we have a gun, it should be like functional because they were firing it earlier or something like that. I'm just trying to think of something that would make sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I feel like. Whatever new details come out, like what just trying to make sense.
They didn't like. I don't know, maybe I'm just pure speculation. I'm just imagining maybe they're like, well, clearly we know from experience that these guns are working today, so they should be fine or something like that. I don't know. And they didn't bother like to call the armor in or something. Yeah,
that's very possible. Yeah, that is very possible. Yeah, that would definitely help her case, the armorer's case for sure. If she put them away and then they went and retrieved them themselves to start practicing and blah blah blah. Yeah, that would actually help her case. So yeah, I guess the lawyers are doing a good job giving her an out. But she also said that the lawyer said, I should say, she's been doing the right thing, which is keeping her mouth shut. But her lawyers have been saying that someone possibly sabotaged the gun by inserting a real bullet in there, which is a very grandiose claim. It's a very big claim. It's a very, conspiratorial claim. It's not, I'm not the kind of person, just to be clear, that just because it's a conspiracy, that means it's not possible. It's just the kind of thing where it's like the circumstances give you the easier explanation, which is simply that everything was so negligent that this was practically bound to happen. We talked about it in the 3-part series, and I would need to understand why, other than what they're saying is that maybe people were so disgruntled that someone, put a real bullet in the mixture at some point. They don't name when or what happened. They're also her lawyers, so you know.
I mean, even if that did happen,
she's still responsible.
Sure, but even if that did happen, I mean, when that, based on what you're saying, like Alec Baldwin would have, final, like, look in the gun, like, that kind of thing, like,
yeah.
Unless you're also like claiming that he was in on it, like, or just being negligent, and that, like, what would have happened if he hadn't, right? So that's a bull. Because now you're implicating Alec Baldwin too.
I really do. What it sounds like to me is because Baldwin's lawyers and PR team, because if you're really rich and famous in Hollywood, you hire these, you have these crisis management teams that you have on on retainer. So you give them $100,000 to hold, and in an emergency they come to your defense, create a whole PR thing, and everything just works like clockwork from there, and you don't worry about it. And surely he has one. Well, he does have one, and they've been doing their job, which is to try to cast away any negative press in his direction, which has been including throwing her under the bus repeatedly, the armor, and blaming everything on her. There's a lot of speculation that I can't confirm that that PR team also is responsible for leaking her TikTok to try to make her look more juvenile, because she has some interesting stuff posted on there with her playing with guns. Now, I don't think it's that relevant, that particular thing, because you can pose for a TikTok video with a firearm that you checked and it's responsible. That's not what anyone's arguing. Everyone's arguing about what happened that day. That's the only thing that really matters. But so there's a whole bunch of shenanigans going on. So I have a feeling her lawyers are just trying to counteract the PR storm that is coming at her, and trying to throw up as much counter distraction as possible in the opposite direction. And her dad is probably quite wealthy, so I'm sure these lawyers are quite good at what they do. So that's what I'm going to assume. Another complication that there were armed guards on set, which I think was interesting. I don't know if that's also smoke being thrown up, because I don't see how that's relevant. But I guess there could have been a magic bullet that came from one of the guards' guns and somehow entered the. I don't know. I feel like this is all just throwing stuff in the air to try to avoid culpability on most people's behalf as possible. Now, I have there's a Hollywood insider who has been talking to a lot of assistant directors in LA about Alec Baldwin, trying to get their take on what it's been like to work with him in the past. And apparently there are two types of actors: those who actually check the gun and those who don't check the gun. And according to these ADs, he's never been known to check the gun. So that's a big L in his corner. And given what happened, I think that makes sense. And given what he said afterwards, it kind of makes it feel like it was never habitual for him to actually do any safety precautions. Now, that goes to what I was saying before about seniority and intimidation and stuff like that. At a certain point, you just got to say, I don't care if you're Alec Baldwin or Joe Schmo off the street. You have to follow the rules. And I'm sure he's just been used to not having to follow the rules because he's Alec Baldwin. And I guess this is how he had to learn his lesson, if he even learns a lesson from this. And the last detail, which I think is interesting for context, is that day, the scene that they were filming was a gigantic shootout. It was the climax of the entire film. It was just there were going to be hundreds of blanks being fired that evening in this shootout that was supposed to be super visceral. The particular shot that they were shooting was a point of view shot, from, I guess, a victim. I'm not sure, or a victim in that was poor phrasing. Sorry, by a character who's supposed to be a victim. That they were setting up, which is why he was shooting in the direction of the camera.
Could have become quite the victim then, huh? If he didn't practice before, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting context. So it would have been a chaotic day. It was probably the most packed, terrible day of the entire shoot. The whole production was probably revolving around this day, is what it sounds like. So I'm sure everyone is stressed, and I'm going to assume the crew was unhappy for legitimate reasons, because I don't think a lot of stuff makes sense if they weren't. And so that probably didn't help the scenario. Plus, that makes sense why, if she was making blanks on set, she would have 500 rounds. Maybe she was making those on the fly because they needed them ASAP and there was no time to make them. I don't know. It's all speculation. Now, last thing I'll say is there are a ton of details out there about some really odd stuff that I didn't have time to verify and stuff like that. It gets into a weird territory at a certain point where I'm like, okay, well, in order for me to repeat any of this stuff, I think I would need to read, some primary source stuff and really understand what people are talking about. I would say it's pretty typical for Hollywood, this kind of shenanigans, but I won't talk about it now. And maybe down the line, no guarantees, I'll make a follow-up episode about it if it turns out to have any legs to stand on. But there's it's nasty. I'll put it that way. It's typical Hollywood stuff. So there you go. That's my news update.
Given that the day was going to be the day of the big shootout, I don't know anything about this other than what you told me, but if there was a time to slip in intentionally a real bullet, that would be the time. Also, at the same time, if there was a time to do it, for a mistake to happen, I guess it'd also be the same day, so maybe it doesn't mean anything. Either way, the chances of both are amplified on that day.
I mean, it's pretty ballsy, right? How mad do you have to be to put a real round in the mixture of you're crazy.
People have done crazier things, but people have done crazier things.
I mean, you have to be so mad you're murderous. That's literally what that
especially
means.
If
you. Not necessarily. I guess in theory, you could hoped that you weren't gonna act. No one was actually gonna get hurt. It would just be a statement, see how really unsafe this set is. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
It would be interesting if it'd be interesting if the first shot of the scene was not meant to be shot at anybody. You know what I'm
saying? Yeah.
I don't know, say in the planning, the first shot was meant to be, say, a warning shot in the store, right? Then someone would be like, oh, well, I'll put one bullet that's real in this thing, all right? And obviously, this is speculation, pretty wild speculation. Could be any number of things, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll start to give it credit once they produce some tangible. They don't have to say that who did it, right? They just have to show me, something, anything at all besides we assert that this is what happened because the crew is so mad, which just kind of sounds. I mean, they're her lawyers, right? It's the best thing that casts away doubt on her performance, right? Is some sort of nefarious activity. That has nothing to do with her, right? That she couldn't stop, right? Or something like that. Whether that's true or not, I am completely open to, trust me. It's just, I don't know. We don't really have information that would confirm it at all. Also, that private message on Instagram just read like a load of crock. And it just makes me sick because I feel like Baldwin and his PR team are playing games. And that's what it looks like, at least. And it's not the kind of thing. Oh, and the husband filed a gigantic lawsuit, as predicted, basically against everyone. He's probably going to keep adding people one by one to this lawsuit until he's amassed the entire production, practically. So, which is what he should be doing, because that's pretty much what happened. Is the entire set is complicit, not literally everyone, but the atmosphere, is practically complicit in killing her. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, I hate how people deal with this kind of stuff, and it's pretty nasty to me that Alec Baldwin would engage in that kind of stuff when I don't think it's likely that the set was actually run well. 21-day shoot, $6 to $7 million. It just doesn't even sound on its face like something that would be run well. So, was there music news?
Yeah. So two people, two deaths, both the conductor, kind of famous conductor Bernard Haitink, who is kind of famous in the classical world, conducted pretty much most of the world's best orchestras, including the London Symphony Orchestra from I'm not sure exactly what year, but until 1979, so like through the late 60s, I think, through 79. So he's, for film music, relevant too, in a sense that even though he didn't conduct Star Wars, and Williams obviously conducted the London Symphony Orchestra for the original film, very responsible for the sound of the orchestra at that time and the overall cohesion and playing of all the players. So important in that sense for film music, but just a very important figure in music. And also John Ashton Thomas, who's a orchestrator and conductor. Has done a lot of big things recently, including working on conducting and orchestrating Black Panther. But most notably, he's kind of the biggest contributor to the orchestration team of John Powell. So he just died at the age of 60. So
that's pretty young. Yeah. Yep. Was there any gaming news at the end of the day?
Yeah, pretty related actually. It's about Harry Potter. I was literally talking about Harry Potter games not existing in the modern world. Well, apparently one came out 2 months ago for mobile.
Oh.
And apparently it made $228 million in 2 months. I've never heard of this thing. I don't know how. It's not even out in the US. It's only out in certain parts of Asia. It's a lot of money. I don't know how they know that. So take that with a grain of salt. I literally was like, it's like, how do you know this? I'm trying to find out, but I just stopped trying at some point. Aside from that, this is related to what I was talking about before about FIFA and its feature with EA. And I found an article saying, headline being 2K discusses buying FIFA football license from EA, right? Now, I went down the sources, and that is a very misleading headline. It is true, technically, yes. They did discuss buying FIFA football license from EA. But I only found one line where they mentioned FIFA, and it's not even all right, I'll just read the line. So there's some interview going on with some dudes from Take-Two CEO. Take-Two owns 2K. And it says, blah, blah. It says, hold up. Yeah, at the end of the article, it says, I have a bunch of tabs open, literally just following, because one article will say sources another article, and I'll say the source is another article, and I'll be just going through them. So I have a bunch of tabs open. Actually, I think I lost it. Dang, okay. Well, but it really was something someone asked him about, what do you think about FIFA? And he's like, I don't know, maybe, something like that, Clearly, he's not really, I found it. Okay, here it is. He said, the question was, okay, I don't think it says the question, but someone asked him about soccer games, and 2K, or Take-Two at least, does own a soccer mobile game called Top 11. And then later he added, it says, quote, that's a big step forward for us. We haven't been in that spot before, and I think I'll leave it at that today. The quote doesn't even say he ever mentioned the word FIFA, ever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so make sure, it's just the announcement. I was reading r/gaming news, and one of the things they have on r/gaming news as a rule is that the title you put as your for your Reddit post must be verbatim the title of the article that you're linking. All right, Be careful. That's a very misleading thing. So yeah.
No, headlines are never misleading. How can this be? Cool. Well, thank you for tuning into Mixed Media Live on this fine Friday evening. Enjoy your weekends if you're still watching live. Also, if you're watching in post, subscribe if you enjoy any of this stuff, any of this information. We love talking about our respective fields and discussing it with other people. And I'm excited to really jump on this podcast and try to make it something even bigger and more special going forward than it already has been. But thank you for everyone who's stuck around with us. Especially thank you to Rob Sharma, who made it possible for us to be streaming on Rumble Live today. You can join him on mixedmedia.locals.com for a whole bunch of perks that I won't bore you with. Just got to go to the link, mixedmedia.locals.com. Every link you could possibly need is in the description. So there's no excuse for not finding our Discord, finding our Instagram, anything that you want. Our Discord is awesome. We talk about news, we talk about our respective art stuff, throughout the week, and we continue the discussions there. So with that, see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.
I wanna cause no problems. I just wanna live my life, but I keep on hearing about nonsense. Me and my dons ain't mobsters, but when you see imposters, we know how to read them faces, same way you know how to read them comments. If you wanna talk, let's talk, but around here, make sure you're walking, your talk is constant.